Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to calculate this expected loss for each of these three currencies and the portfolio, which is equally weighted. So first of all, we're going to calculate the rate of return. So basically rate of return is the percentage change from the last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the current month's exchange rate by the previous month's exchange rate, and then I'm gonna do -1. So that's gonna give the percentage change for the first currency, the Canadian dollar. So now I can just copy the formula and calculate return for each of these three currencies. To calculate the equally weighted portfolio return, basically we need to put the weights here, which equals to 1/3, because it's 100% divided by 3, which is equally weighted. So let me just put this one here. So I can calculate the return equals to percentage of each of these investment times the return on each of them, plus the percentage on the second one, and then the return on the second one, plus the percentage on the third currency times the return on the third currency. So now we have the returns on the portfolio for month 2. So let's do the returns on the portfolio for other months. So now we have, well, what happened over here, because since we are copying the formula from here, this cell reference, so I need to put $sign for this one, $sign for the second one, and then the $sign for third one, so that when I drag the formula down here, copy the formula down here, it's not going to have problem. So now let's calculate the average equals to AVERAG, average. You select the values, close the parentheses. So we calculate the average return on Canadian dollar in the last 6 months. Okay, so we can drag this formula for all of these currencies, including the portfolio. Well, to calculate the variance, what we can do is we can do equal, it's a VAR, so variance. So this is not the population, this is a sample, which is a small size sample. So we're gonna do var.s, and then we're gonna select these things, and we can close the parenthesis. Now this is the variance, and I don't want to put the variance in percentage. This one is just a number. Okay, so variance. Now let's drag the formula for the first, second, and third currency. Well, I cannot do the variance calculation this way for this portfolio, because when we are calculating portfolio variance, we need to use the formula. So for example, if we have two assets, we're going to have this formula. Depending on, if you are using correlation, you can just multiply the last part by 2, the weights of each of them, times the correlation of these assets. If we are doing the 3 assets, then you can see the formula here. So we are either using correlation or covariance. Depending on that, we're going to create the information table down here. So I'm going to leave this one blank right now. If I want to find out the standard deviation, I can do 2 ways. I can just take the square root of variance. So I can do equal SQRT. I can take the square root of that number and close it, and so I got the standard deviation. I can drag that formula. So we have the standard deviation of each of these currencies here. So the expected loss is basically, so this we need to get the G statistics, either it's given to you or you can calculate this one. So the question says up here is 95% confidence interval. So using 95% confidence interval, we calculate G statistics, which is 1.65 or 1.645. Okay, so what you can do is for each month the expected loss equals to the standard deviation times the G statistics. Okay, so let's calculate the expected loss. So each month the portfolio, so if you have only Canadian dollar, the value is going to be the expected loss could be about 2%. Okay, so I have left this one blank for the equally weighted portfolio. The reason for that is we need to use this formula. So we have the weights, we need to get the variance. So variance we already calculated over here. So look, you can use the standard deviation, but you don't want to square that number. So let's get the variance of each of these currencies equal. So right here we have the variances. So we're gonna get all of these numbers, and again I don't want them in percentage, I just want them to the number. So all the variances are here. So let's find out the covariance. Okay, covariance of these two returns of Canadian dollar and returns on Mexican peso. So I have two choices. I can calculate correlation. Look, if you use correlation versus covariance, actually it's using covariance is the formula is shorter. So I'm gonna calculate covariance. So here COV. Okay, so when you type COV, covariances, right? So we have two choices. We have sample and the population. So I'm gonna use the covariance for the sample, and then I'm gonna select the first currency and then comma and then the second one. Okay, close the parenthesis. So this is the covariance. We can see that covariance is something, it's a negative. I want to calculate covariance of the other pair, which is the currency B and C. Okay, so basically I can copy this formula, Control C and Control V, copy this formula, and we can use that information right here. Let's make sure that we select the right range, the data. Okay, so as you can see, covariance of these two assets, two currencies. What happened over here? Let's type COV, covariance of sample, and then we have this currency B, comma, currency C. So we close the parenthesis. Okay, so we have the covariance for the other one. Let's calculate the covariance for the third pair, COV. So you can see covariance of the sample, and then we're gonna select the first currency, and then we can select the third currency. Okay, make sure you put the right range of the values. All right, so we have covariances. So covariance of A and B pair, B and C pair, and C and A pair. Okay, so now we can calculate covariance. We can calculate the portfolio variance using one of these two formulas. Okay, because we have three assets. So basically, as you can see that this is the sigma 1 2, which means is the covariance of asset 1 and 2. This one is the correlation, row correlation of 1 and 2. So basically, if you use covariance, you don't have to have this standard deviation of each of them, so you can minimize your work. Therefore I'm using the first formula. So equals, as you can see here, the weight square, which is this one, weight square, times we have variance of the first one, so variance of the first one, plus we have weight square of the second one, and then we have the variance of the second currency, plus we have percentage in the third currency, that square of that number, and then we have variance of that currency returns. Okay, so we finished this first, second, third terms. Now the fourth terms, fifth terms, and the sixth terms here in the formula. So let's do the plus, and we have 2 from the formula, multiplication, and W1, W2. So W1 is this one, multiplication, W2, and then what we have over here, covariance of currency 1 and 2. Currency 1 is A, currency 2 is B. Okay, so basically we're gonna do select this term, covariance of A and B. All right, let's move on. We have 2 from the formula, and then we have this one is W1 and W3. So basically you can do either way. Okay, you can do 2 and 3 first. So I'm gonna do 2 and 3 just to have the good sequence. So basically W2 times weight of the third one times the covariance of B and C. All right, plus we have 2 from the formula times W, so the weights of the third currency times weight of the first currency times the covariance of first and the third currency. So right here. Okay, so let's make sure we did everything right. So we have first, second, third, 3 terms, and then we have these covariance terms here. So it looks good. So I'm going to do enter. So I got the covariance of the portfolio return. Sorry, I got the variance of the portfolio return. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the square root of that number, SQRT. Take the square root of that variance. So this is going to be your portfolio variance. Okay, so the portfolio variance here, it is less than 1%. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy that number over here, equal, we're gonna put that portfolio standard deviation, and then we're gonna multiply that number by this G statistics times this one. So basically this is the expected loss of the portfolio. What it means is if you have the exposure with the foreign currency just with one single country, this is gonna be your expected loss each month. Okay, if you are using this Mexican peso, this is gonna be your expected loss for each month. This is if you have this Polish currency, you're gonna have this expected loss. But if you have the good diversification, you have cash transaction exposure to all of these 3 countries, maybe equally weighted, then what is going to happen is your expected loss is going to be less than having individual country. Okay, so this is how you're going to calculate expected loss on a portfolio or single assets. So hope this video will help you to understand this calculation. Thank you.